Thomas the Tank Engine, the character, has been through a lot through the years. From racing buses and clearing snowdrifts to working in freaking World War II, the little engine's been through a lot. So why don't we talk about the history of Thomas? Maybe some of the other characters too. This is a new series I'd like to introduce to the channel called NWR Profiles, and this episode will be first, Thomas. So why don't we get into the history? Details of Thomas's arrival on the Northwestern Railway in 1915 show he arrived by mistake. How this happened is unknown, but it's believed that he was sent to Silver in a wartime mix-up. His driver and fireman got along well with the local people, married sundry and women. By 1920, neither one wanted to leave the island with their beloved engine. Through an inquiry, Sir Topham Hatt I found out that the LBSCR had written off Thomas as being lost in war service. Rather than face complications resulting from a change in their books, the LBSCR quietly sold Thomas to the Northwestern Railway for a nominal sum. Thomas was rebuilt at Crovan's Gate in 1920, presumably under the design of Sir Topham Hatt I. It is probable that this was the rebuild which gave Thomas his larger driving wheels and flattened the rear end of his running board. It can be assumed that Thomas was found with the faults that the E2s had and thus was rebuilt into a more reliable engine. Thomas formerly worked at the station pilot as Vickerstown, shunting trains for the bigger engines on the main line to take out. He enjoyed teasing the other engines, specifically Gordon, who he'd quietly sneak up on and whistle loudly while Gordon was dozed inside it. Eventually, Gordon managed to get back at Thomas by pulling out the station before he uncoupled from his coaches. Dragging him down the line at a tremendous speed, Thomas vowed to never tease Gordon again. Perhaps as a result of his brief excursion beyond his boundaries, Thomas longed to see more of the world and become part of it, and became jealous of the bigger engines for having the chance to pull trains. On an occasion when Henry fell ill, Thomas took his morning passenger train since there was no other engines available, much to his delight. However, for unknown reasons, Thomas left the station before he could be coupled to his train, leaving behind the coaches. The passengers and their luggage. Thomas was not aware of his mistake until he was stopped by a signalman who asked where his train was. Ashamed and confused, Thomas returned to the station and collected his coaches. Subsequently, the incident made him a laughingstock among the other engines. Thomas continued to grumble to the other engines, though they took no notice of him. However, Edward felt sorry for him and allowed him to take his goods train to Wellsworth while he handled his shunting duties in the yard. Although Edward had warned him to be careful around the trucks, Thomas took no notice and bumped the trucks as he started. When they reached Gordon's Hill, the trucks pushed him down the line, causing him to lose control. He had only just managed to stop trains before hitting a set of buffers in Wellsworth Yard, where he was confronted by the Fat Controller. So that Thomas could learn about trucks almost as much as Edward. The Fat Controller kept Thomas there, continuing to stop with Edward, and could easily keep an eye on things, as he lives at Wellsworth. While Thomas worked there, he saw the breakdown train. Shortly after he learned what its purpose was, James ran right past him, out of control thanks to his trucks, and derailed in the field west of the station. Thomas fetched the breakdown train and rushed to James's aid, helped him clean up the broken trucks and bring back James to the shed where he was re-railed. As a reward for his actions, Thomas was given 2 new coaches, called Annie and Clarabelle, and the responsibility of running the Farquhar branch line, much to his delight. Thomas loved his branch line dearly and had many adventures during his first days on the line. He once left his guard behind by accident, and on another occasion he accidentally swallowed a fish in his tank when he took water from the lake, causing him tremendous pain. During the autumn season, Thomas met Terrace the tractor and teased him for his caterpillar tracks. Although he soon came to regret this act when he became stuck in the snow and had to be pulled out by him. Thomas later met Birdie and was challenged to a race to Farquhar. Although he was behind for most of the race, Thomas managed to overtake Birdie and won. In 1960, Thomas crashed into the Farquhar station master's house after a careless cleaner had meddled with his controls. Being unable to stop on his own, this incident taught Thomas that he still needed his driver to control him, as opposed to an earlier compliment by his driver had gone to his smoke box. Thomas was sent to Crovan's Gate Works to be mended, where he received some changes to his design, including a new footplate that was now level from smokebox to bunker. When Thomas returned to the branch line, he began looking after the passenger trains with Daisy. In 1990, Thomas was invited by the National Railway Museum to represent the Northwestern Railway in the Great Railway Show, an event showcasing many famous engines across the United Kingdom. Thomas was excited, but the journey to York was shaky. He damaged his front buffer beam when he hit a crossing gate, and the lorry he was traveling on was booked for parking illegally. Thomas was to be prepared when he arrived at the museum and befriended Green Arrow when he was being mended, though he continued to have bad luck when he ran into a bag thrown on the line and frightened a small child. Yes, I am not joking. Thomas met a Karen in the Railway series. Fortunately, Thomas managed to make up for his bad luck when, as he was double-heading a rail tour with Green Arrow, he noticed the line up ahead was damaged and stopped the train. As a reward for his actions, Thomas was made an honorary member of the National Railway Museum and received a commemorative plaque. Afterwards, Thomas left York and returned to Sodor. In 1995, during the Golden Jubilee of the Railway series, Thomas derailed on his branch line after rabbits had been undermining the track. He was rescued and managed to attend the Jubilee at Tidmouth, albeit after being delayed at Knapford Junction after center points in the signal failed. In 2007, during which Toby was having to handle the overflow of quarry workers, Thomas discovered an old carriage named Victoria, who asked to be restored and help Toby. He brought her up from the junction to Farquhar to meet Toby, after having to bypass Terrence's toppled cart that nearly blocked the line. In 2011, Thomas had been crossing the river bridge near Elsbridge, where he was forced to stop due to an injured swan laying on the rails. He escorted it to Farquhar, where it was taken to a vet, and after recovery, Thomas brought it back to Elsbridge, where the swan was freed. After, he attended the Thin Clergyman's Cemetery. Thomas started his life on the island of Sodor as a cheeky little tank engine who shunted coaches for the mainline engines, such as Henry and Gordon. He enjoyed playing tricks on them, including Gordon, the biggest and proudest engine of all. He saw a lesson when Gordon tricked him into being coupled to him during the express run. Tired out, he vowed never to tease Gordon again, realizing he did not have to be important. Soon, he decided to pull his own passenger train too, much to the amusement of the other engines. He got his chance again when Henry became ill and no one could pull the passenger train. However, Thomas was so excited that he accidentally left his train and his passengers behind, believing he was pulling it easily. He soon realized his mistake and returned to pull the train. The engines laughed at him, though, and soon Thomas wanted to get out of the shunting yards and see the world. Edward offered him a chance to pull trucks, and Thomas excitedly took the job, not realizing how troublesome trucks could be. The trucks pushed him down Gordon's Hill into a siding, where the Fat Controller told him to practice so that one day he would be able to be as good as Edward. Thomas soon proved himself when he rescued James after his nasty accident with the trucks using the breakdown train. As a reward for his quick and heroic action, the Fat Controller promised him his own branch line. Thrilled, Thomas soon began running his branch line with his two new coaches, Annie and Clarabelle, who he grew to love very much. He soon considered his branch line to be the most important part of the railway, a fact he would constantly remind the other engines of. However, he continued to make mistakes and dream big, and sometimes this got her into trouble, such as the time he got so impatient that he left his guard behind at Elsbridge or when he wanted to fish, not realizing the implications of the fish being in his boiler. His greatest mistake was when he got his snowplow broken in the winter and ended up stuck in a snowdrift, having to be rescued by Terrence, whom he had insulted earlier for not having real wheels. He soon improved himself again, though, when he beat Bertie the Bus in a great race. He quickly became friends with both Terrence and Bertie, despite their differences. Although Thomas's branch line was indeed the pride of the line, on the main line, things were not going well for the Fat Controller, who was having to deal with Gordon, James, and Henry sulking, refusing to do Thomas's former work of shunting themselves. After they went on strike, Thomas was brought back to help alongside Edward and their new friend Percy, who quickly became Thomas's closest friend. Thomas also became friends with Toby after he was asked by the Fat Controller to help their railway to avoid a lawsuit for a strict policeman. But Thomas still had some cheekiness in him, returning to teasing Gordon after Gordon slid into a ditch. He soon needed Gordon's help after he blatantly went past a danger sign and fell down a mine. They soon became friends after that and promised never to tease each other again. Thomas and Toby later helped Miss Kindly at her cottage after she was snowed in and helped her celebrate Christmas with a very special Christmas party. The following year, Thomas shared a shed in his branch line with Percy and Toby. However, he became conceited about his brilliant blue paint and soon paid the price when Percy accidentally caused a coal hopper to pour coal all over him. Thomas was angry at Percy, but the two friends soon made up after Percy had an accident with some coal trucks. Thomas soon met Trevor, a friend of Edward's, who proved his usefulness when he helped Thomas with the newly constructed harbor. Unfortunately, Thomas became ill a few months later and had to be sent to the works, while Duck looked after his branch line. When Thomas came back, his brakes were stiff and made it seem as they were hard on. As a result, one day, when his fireman was ill, a substitute accidentally caused Thomas to run away, and Harold had to help stop him. Later, when the viaduct needed to be repaired, the mainline engines became late to drop off Thomas's passengers, and as a result, made him late for Birdie. Thomas continued to be of great service to Sir Thomas Railway, although he still remained a cheeky little engine. Thomas later became conceited again when he took his driver's compliment to heart and believed he no longer needed him to work his branch line. This was untrue, but Thomas was too puffed up with himself not to believe it, and, one morning, found himself rolling along the line when a cleaner accidentally started him up. He soon broke into a station master's house and ruined the family's breakfast. He had to be rescued by Donald and Douglas. As a result, the Fat Controller sent him to the works again. He arrived back a few weeks later just in time to take over for a battered Percy, who had a predicament with some trucks. The following Christmas, Thomas was eager to sing carols with the other engines, though had to pick up a Christmas tree for the Fat Controller. Fortunately, on his way back, he was caught in a snowdrift and was lost. Donald and Douglas soon rescued him in time to sing carols with all his friends. From the 8 series onwards, Thomas was given more duties on the main line. Thomas is a blue tank engine who lives on Silver with his friends. He is part of the biggest adventure club and Percy's best friend. The two share a roundhouse called Tibbins Sheds along with Mia, who he first met on Steep Hill when she was new to Silver, Diesel, and Kana. Thomas was also quite close to Gordon, and the two appear to share a father-son dynamic. Once on a day off, Thomas encountered an old boxcar in the maintenance yard, which he named Boxy. Since then, Thomas has grown fond of the boxcar and often took it around with him. By the time in the 2nd series, Boxy was close to the point of completely falling apart. Thomas tried to find parts to repair him, but did no good. After gaining advice from Whiff, Thomas was inspired to try again, and he, with the help of Percy, Carly, and Sandy, restored Boxy to look brand new. However, despite being restored, Boxy was still an old boxcar, and eventually, due to Thomas's recklessness, Boxy was completely destroyed by a boulder in Crumble Canyon. Much to his sadness, while Sandy was unable to repair him this time, she and Carly reused some of Boxy's remaining parts to return him into a repair shed as a surprise for Thomas. Well guys, that was it. Over 5 days of editing and over 12 minutes of footage. That was the complete history of Thomas, and what a ride it has been. And going from the Railway Studios to All Engines Go, it has been crazy. I hope you liked the video because I took a long time to make it. So like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.